So it's been a little while since I last did one of these little blogs or vlogs, as the kids are saying these days. Couple of reasons. I've been in transit, just coming back from the States, where I was in, as you can see, Boston representing. Plan is actually to move out there for next year, and just been on the phone with the guy at their ticket office. Hopefully, I've got some nice seats sorted out for myself for the season. But anyway. Partly that's why, and also I think I was so pissed off after game one of the Spurs series that I thought, you know what, hold it in, Tipo, hold it in, see what happens. I had a feeling, well, game two, it couldn't have been much worse. I mean, I've been a Spurs fan since Manu joined in 2002. I've watched probably every playoff game they've had since then, and I would categorically say I'd be interested if any Spurs fans, if you can think of any. That first half of game one against Houston, I can't remember seeing a worse first half in Spurs history. LaMarcus Aldridge, I mean, what words are there at this point? I mean, the guy literally looked like he had boxing gloves. Like, he couldn't catch, he couldn't handle. Ryan Anderson was like, you know, giving him work on both ends of the floor. I mean, this is a guy who averaged 26 and 11 in the conference semi-finals last year against OKC. Now, granted, even in that series, I think he started off with like 38 in the first game, 41 in the second game, and then he went, you know, AWOL as they won the next 4 games on us. Still, to go from that to this point where they said Ryan Anderson, the guy he can't play against him. He looks intimidated. He doesn't want to back him down. Doesn't want to get physical. Doesn't want to shoot when he's open. And you know, obviously, game two was massive. And you know, I knew we'd bounce back. You know, Popovich made the adjustments he needed to, and more importantly, you know, we, I think, just as a team, came out with a bit more fight, a bit more spirit, and you know, we played out our game. You know, I think, you know, dictating the pace is everything in this series, and you know, we didn't do that at all in the first game. Second game was much more us, you know, moving the ball a lot better. Obviously, Kawhi did a great job on James Harden, and you know, obviously Tony Parker's out now. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays. I know lots of people are probably going to say, oh, you know, well, that rules the Spurs out. And Tony, you know, he has been, credit to him, playing a lot better the last couple of games, and he will be missed. But I do think, you know, we don't rely on him to win games. Ultimately, if LaMarcus plays as he's supposed to, as I said, Parker, Ginobili, Gasol, you know, you can count David Lee, you can count one of those guys to give you something per game, like one of them per game. Patty Mills is playing awesome. He has a sick move against Beverly last night as well. But, you know, he's playing well. And I just think it's more about our inside production, you know, getting something from LaMarcus, David Lee, Dedmon when he's on. And I don't know what anyone said. I quite enjoyed him coming in and actually saying, you know what, fuck you guys, I'm going to get involved. I'm going to stir shit up a bit on Monday. That was probably the most enjoyable part of the game for me, watching him get thrown out. But yeah, so that's where we're at. I mean, you know, it's 1-1. It's going to go 7. I say it from the start, and I do feel like whoever wins game 3 is going to be massive. Moving over, obviously, Golden State did their thing. Steve Kerr being out, I think, is actually going to make more of an impact than people realise. I think in the playoffs, coaching actually is when coaching comes into it. You know, making those in-game adjustments, making those game-to-game adjustments, and having, you know, the ability to kind of really, you know, get on your guys, get on your team. Again, you look at the way Popovich does with the Spurs. You know, Mike Brown, you know, everything I understand, and you know, I was fortunate enough when I worked at the NBA. I've got colleagues, former colleagues who you know Mike Brown, has all spoke really highly of him. They say very good coach, and you know, he does seem to be, you know, he's done a good job wherever he's been. Fair play to the guy, but as an assistant with that assistant title, interim head coach, you know, you don't have the same, you know, the same kind of credibility, the same, you know, ability to kind of go at guys and get on guys, you know, especially guys like, you know, KD, Draymond, Steph, and Clay and the boys. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see how things pan out. As I said, they'll get through Utah. As much as I like Utah's team, they're just not equipped to match up against Golden State. I think in my last video I talked about how they had some, you know, these big guys who could all put the ball on the floor and you know, make plays. What I suppose I didn't mention is obviously Golden State has the same, except probably really better. So, you know, it's not a good matchup for them. It's going to be probably over in 5 games, I think. I think Utah will get one. I think Utah will get one at home, but it's going to be over in 5. And then you know, when Golden State move into the conference finals, and I still believe in my Spurs, and then probably against the Cavs, they're going to need Steve Kerr. They're going to need that coaching, and obviously he'll still be involved in some capacity, but in game, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting, and if you look at the Eastern Conference right now, I'm loving what's going on in the Boston-Washington series. I'm not ashamed to say I was wrong. John Wall's playing well, but I think I don't know if I'm ready to say that Isaiah Thomas is a better player than John Wall just yet. He's easily the best small player I've ever seen, and I'm talking sort of, I'd say 5'10" under, even probably 6 foot and under. I can't say. I mean, Iverson's probably the best 6 foot and under player, but under 6 foot, I can't think of anyone better than him. But obviously, what he did in the last game was just unreal. It was just amazing to watch. I still think there's more Washington losing the game necessarily than Boston winning. I mean, Washington had the game in hand with a couple of minutes left to go in the fourth quarter, and that's twice now. Obviously, the first game it was earlier, but still they've been in control and they've let it go. Nothing away from the Celtics, but the Celtics shot the shit out of the ball on game one, on Sunday, and then Washington made a lot of unforced errors, and Isaiah Thomas was unreal. I think that ultimately, when it comes down to that matchup, I think John Wall is more of a distributor. He can score, but he's more of a pass-forward point guard, and he's therefore a bit more reliant on his teammates. Well, I think, and Washington's bench is pretty awful. But I think if you look at Isaiah Thomas, he's a scorer, and therefore the other guys aren't hitting his shots. He's still capable of getting his, and so for a guy his size, his height, it's incredible what he can do. So he's winning that, and the way things are looking, man, I think it's going to be. I said Washington is 7 originally, or Boston is 7 originally. I think. I said that after the first game. Before that, I said I thought Washington were going to win. Now it's looking like it's going to be Boston 5 or 6. So, credit to them though. Every time that people keep writing them off, including me, they come back and show, and that's, as I said, partly why I'm wearing the shirt today. And then you move into the last series. Cleveland Raptors, and again, I watched this game last night. Toronto have just no belief in themselves, and it's at the point now where they don't even look like they're going to win a game. I think it's a bad matchup for them in the sense that, they don't match up well with Cleveland, and you can kind of break it down almost position by position. Cleveland are better, but I also think if you look at how Toronto's team is kind of built, I think it's quite a flawed team in the sense that Valanciunas is your main inside option. And again, I think any team that really predicates the ball now on putting the ball inside is kind of out of touch with today's NBA. And then if you look, Ibaka, he's made a lot of strides in his shooting, but he's still not an out-and-out three-point shooter. Kyle Lowry is very inconsistent. They don't really have any kind of second wing. I mean, PJ Tucker and the guy Norman Powell's playing really well, but I'm sorry, they're not in the same kind of caliber as a lot of the elite wings that they're going to face in the playoffs. And then DeMar DeRozan's their best player, but he doesn't shoot threes. And I mean, personally, I'm not a huge fan of his game. I respect his game, but he can get numbers. But I do think a lot of the time DeRozan tends to beat up on the weaker teams, a bit like DeMarcus Cousins in that regard. Or Blake Griffin sometimes, but they'll get great stats against the Nets and the Suns and the Knicks and so on. I'll throw the Lakers in there. I'll name shame them as well. But then when he comes against the good teams, and you kind of again seen it in this round, he's not as effective. And as I said, without that 3-point shot, it hinders you. Playing at that 2 guard in today's NBA. So I think just ultimately their team is just not designed or equipped to really make a deep run. I think that's probably about as far as they're going to go. The only reason they got past Milwaukee is they're just more experienced and made less mistakes down the stretch. Didn't dig themselves into a 30-point hole, which again that was an awesome game. There have been some awesome games this playoffs, and I guess the final point I wanted to make, and I'm coming to that 10-minute barrier that I'm always very aware of. I know, I'm interested to know what other people think. The games are awesome, and I'm really enjoying watching them. But there's almost like this hollow feeling where, I don't know, in seasons past, like you watch a team come out of nowhere, have a really good series or a really good game, and you have some genuine excitement, is there going to be an upset? This is a bit of a Cinderella story. This team could go all the way. That kind of story, that kind of build-up starts happening. This season, and again, it harks back to points I've already made, but it already feels like, it was a great performance from Isaiah Thomas the other night, but it kind of hollow because he's not getting out of the East. The Rockets put on, as I said, it was horrible for me to watch, but they put on an unbelievable showing on game 1. And then Spurs followed up with a great showing in game 2. But again, it's a bit hollow because you don't really believe that either team's going to go all the way. So I don't know. I just wanted to know if other people feel the same way, or you guys are just, enjoying the basketball. I mean, I said I'm enjoying it, but there's that kind of undercurrent of, redundancy kind of going on in the background, at least in my mind. But, going to keep watching, keep seeing what happens. I don't even know if I am rooting for an upset at this stage. I do want to see, I think, Cleveland against Golden State in the final. They're 1-1. Let's see who wins, and particularly with Golden State adding Durant, there's so many backstories. But it is a little shame that you don't genuinely feel other. It's a shame it feels like an inevitability. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. But that's all for today. Just wanted to, spit my mind and kind of get something out as it's been a couple of days. Looking forward to the games tonight. I'm going to give up on trying to predict because I'm getting some of them right, some of them wrong, and I don't want to lose all credibility. But we'll keep posted for more updates from me. And as always, very interested to hear what anyone else thinks and get that discussion going. But hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you soon.